dans un lit de bourraque, jolie fille chérie. Oh, cher, mais mon spoon is mérite pas ça.
We're honored today to have a member of the Museum of the Gulf Coast Sports Hall of Fame present here with us, Coach James Gamble. Coach Gamble has had a distinguished career through the years. As a basketball coach, he won 4 state championships. He's had an amazingly successful one-loss record, winning 74% of the games he played. He's been recognized in numerous halls of fame, including the Museum of the Gulf Coast Hall of Fame. In fact, 6 in total. He's also been a great citizen in the community. He's been honored with a bust that's on display at the school where he coached, Lincoln High School, now Lincoln Middle School. He has also been recognized by the city with a street named in his honor. Coach Gamble has had so many honors in his life and has done so many great things. So we're very, very happy to welcome you, such a distinguished person who represents Port Arthur and Southeast Texas in such an admirable way. Coach, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe, for having me, and it's certainly an honor to be here.
Your coaching career is legendary, and we'd like to talk about some of the games you coached and the people you worked with and all. Where did you grow up as a young person?
I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, Watts. Went to David Starr Jordan High School and spent a year at East Los Angeles Junior College. After that, I moved to Texas, to Prairie View A&M University.
And that's where you got your college education, was at Prairie View A&M.
Yes, sir.
That's what drew you to Texas. It wasn't a job, but it was to complete your education.
Correct.
Were you there on a scholarship?
I was there on a work-study program. I had to work 2 hours every day in order for my fees to be paid, and it wasn't a scholarship, but it was the next best thing. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to complete my college education. So I was grateful for that opportunity, even though I had other opportunities coming out of high school. I was a basketball and track athlete. I finished second in the long jump in the state of California my senior year. So I was pursued by some colleges, but I wanted to go to UCLA and play basketball, but everybody thought that my potential was in track. So that was one reason why I attended East Los Angeles Junior College. I wanted more of the major universities to see me in action, and of course the one that I wanted, which again was UCLA, did not offer me the opportunity to play basketball, but they did offer track and field, and for some reason, I guess they thought I was better in track and field, but I loved basketball, and I wanted to play that. So I just decided, and one of my high school coaches took a job at Prairie View, and he recruited a bunch of us. In fact, it was about 11 of us went there together. So it was not that it was my only opportunity, but after I didn't really get the one that I wanted, Coach came in and talked to my father. You know, dads are always ready to sweep you out of the house after you reach 18. And So he gave his consent for me to go to Texas with Coach Tom Williams, who later became, and he was a highly sought after coach. He went to Grambling. He left Prairie View, went to Grambling, and he left there. And he was an assistant in the office. He was for the Houston Oilers.
Were you a sprinter in track and field, or did you run hurdles?
I was a long jumper.
Long jumper.
Yeah, but I could run a bit. I ran on relays and things of that nature, but not just sprints overall.
And at Prairie View, did you continue your track and field?
Yes, I did. I finished second in the NCAA long jump in 1957. The Olympic champion defeated me because he jumped way out of my range. I was a 25-foot long jumper, and he was a 26-foot long jumper because he won the Olympics in '56. A young man by the name of Greg Bell. But I had a stellar track year and a super basketball career at Prairie View. And in fact, while you mentioned that I am in the Hall of Honor at my university, I am also in the Hall of Honor in the SWAC, which is the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And I was inducted in the same class with Walter Payton and Willis Reed.
There's a couple of names we've heard before.
Everybody's heard of them. So apparently I must have done something right, but I had a stellar career in track and field. I was the NAIA long jump champion. I won Drake, and those were highlights there because I was the conference champ for 2 or 3 years over there in the long jump. And in my senior year, I finished second in the long jump. The event was held at the University of Texas over there in Austin.
Did you graduate in 1960, was it?
I graduated, no sir. I graduated in 1957.
57?
57, yes.
Did you immediately go into coaching?
I immediately went into coaching and teaching. I did for 1 year, and then I was drafted into the U.S. Army. You know that old song, Mailman, Mailman, what do you have for me? He says, a long letter, brother. We need you across the sea. So I wound up for 2 years in the United States Army. When I came out, University of Prairie View hired me as the head track coach and assistant basketball. I worked there 1 year, and in the meantime, my wife was working down in, can't even think of the name of the little town that she was working in, but we were apart. So after that year that I worked at Prairie View, I had offers from several major high schools, and I decided to choose Port Arthur because it was one of the two that offered my wife and myself a job. So I came here.
And Port Arthur, at that time, had a reputation in sports, particularly football, I suppose.
Yes.
It maybe overshadowed basketball a little bit.
A whole lot. But there were a lot of great athletes here when I came. But the bad news was for me that when I came, before I could work a year, they recalled me. The Vietnam crisis, or whatever they were calling it, escalated, and they recalled me, and I had to spend another year in the Army.
On active duty? Yes.
And then I returned to Port Arthur as the head basketball coach, but then the principal decided that he wanted me to be the head track coach instead of the head basketball coach. and there was conflict there with myself, but I needed a job and everything. So what I did, I agreed to be the assistant track coach and remain the head basketball coach. And also I was assistant varsity football too.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about. Did you work with Joe Washington?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. But Joe was not there when he came after me. When I came to Port Arthur, Lincoln, Al Tabor was the head football coach.
Was that in 1962?
That was in 1962, 61, 62, yes. And then after Tabor left, and McElroy took over. And I think
was that A.Z.?
Yes.
A.Z. McElroy.
A.Z. McElroy, yes. He took over, and I think he lasted a year, I think maybe a year, two, maybe two, but I think it was just 1 year, and then Joe Washington came. Mm-hmm.
And did you continue with the assistant position in football?
Yeah, in
through
fact,
the 60s?
In fact, when Joe Washington came, that was when I became a varsity assistant. Under Tabor and McElroy, I worked with the ninth graders.
Were you there when little Joe Washington was playing?
Yes, I was.
And did you coach him? Or were you more exclusively basketball by then?
Well, he played basketball also.
Oh, he
Little
did?
Joe, yes, he did. Little Joe was a great athlete, but I worked on the defensive side of the football program, and he was on the offensive side. So I did not work hand in hand with him in football, but in basketball, he did a great job for us there.
We were in that era of the segregation where those laws were struck down and the schools were integrated here in about 1970.
It was a little earlier than that. I want to say
69, 70.
Yes. I want to say, yeah, about that.
And that changed the environment.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
It changed the environment for you and for everyone else, hopefully for the benefit of all. But it was different. I was in radio broadcasting, and we would broadcast the Lincoln football games for the very first time in about 1969, 70.
Yes.
And that's when little Joe was playing.
Right.
With his dad.
What that actually did, I think, for the whole state of Texas, it gave everyone a look at competition involving everybody. You know, and instead of being segregated, you know, over here, it gave you the opportunity to compete against the best. And this is, I mean, you know, not the best black players or best white players, the best players. It gave us the opportunity to do that, and that it kind of gave you a look at the way you look at yourself as a coach, how well you were doing the job, your knowledge of the game, or whether your kids were as fundamentally sound as the other kids and all of that, you know. But I had no problem with that. The system I came out of in Los Angeles, and I competed against all kinds of players, white, black, Hispanic, Japanese, you know. So there was no problem with me. My high school coaches, the basketball coach was a white guy. My football coach was a Hispanic man. He was football and track. So, and the year that I spent in JUCO, I had white coaches. So that I had no problem competing or matching wits with coaches when integration came here in Texas.
You were prepared.
Yes, and I got that from my father. My father was not an educated man, and I came up in a broken home with 4 boys and the old man, and he told us that any success you have in life is going to depend largely on how well you work with and get along with other people. That was one of the things that he told us, and he reminded us of that almost yearly, and to go to school every day, you know. And so he also said, always be prepared to do the best you can. That's right. Always be prepared to do the best that you can. Those things have stayed with me from the time I was a little kid up until now. And you know, my father, as almost all fathers, want their children, or boys, especially boys, to be more successful than they were. But at the time that my father came along, any role models that at that time was Joe Louis and Jackie Robinson. We were not, as you can see now, I'm not a big man, but he told all of, he said, man, I wish you would be like Jackie Robinson. And he bought baseball, I got them from somewhere, baseballs and bats and mitts. And every day when he came home, he spent about 30 minutes to an hour hitting ground balls, hitting us balls, you know. Wanted me to be a baseballer. My older brothers and my youngest one, they decided they didn't want to do that. But I wanted to please Dad, so I was there doing that. And as I went along, you know, I realized that I was not going to be Jackie Robinson. That was the reason I only ran track 1 year. I played baseball, tried to play baseball, great fielder, run the bases, all the thing. Swinging the bat was my problem because I was not big and strong. And we didn't have the solid weight program in the high school that we needed. So I played baseball up until my senior year, and I just finally gave it up, and I just ran track 1 year. And the first track meet that I was in, I won the 100-yard dash, the 200-yard dash, the high jump, the long jump, and ran a leg on the mile relay. And I will never forget that. In my yearbook, and I wished I had it, my yearbook had in big letters, Gamble is great. I would always, sometimes I lay down and, you know, and I think of that from high school, you know, Gamble is great. So it turned out, you know. That
you made that happen as an adult.
I tried. I really tried.
You did more than try. You actually made it happen.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We're so proud of you and all your successes.
Thank you.
Talk about the basketball now at Lincoln when you started to build that program. This would have been in the middle 1960s.
Right. When
you could concentrate solely on building a basketball program.
Okay. Yeah, because at the very beginning, all of the basketball players, except maybe 3 or 4, everybody played football. And you actually could not be in competition with anybody until the football season was over. I had difficulty scheduling practice games and that nature. And so finally, I talked with a successful coach in Houston named Jackie Carr. And I told him what my problem was. And because he refused to play, he said, Gamble, I'm not going to play you because your team is on the football field, and I need, play some competition. He said, I'll tell you what you need to do. So you need to go over to the middle school and pick you some boys that the football coaches didn't pick. Run them, put them in the weight room, drills and stuff year round. Talk to them, let them know, why you are selecting them, because they were not selected by the football coach, and that they could spend time developing. So we did that. And another thing that when we started playing UIL basketball, we got a lot of fouls called on us. So then I had to go in the direction of playing more kids. So I had to really develop kids and work them so that I could play 10 every game. So I started doing that. And so after we started the weight program and all of that, we go to coaching clinics. I would talk to college coaches who were there doing presentations and ask them questions about the weight programs that they had, the different drills and all of this in that off season. And I collected a lot of information, and I made cards on the kids, and I measured them, and after a while, kids started looking as great as the football players, they good-looking athletes. And when I was recruiting those kids out of middle school, they told me, they look at their feet. So you the kids, big feet, skinny and tall, a lot of them scared to play football anyway. Some of them, the parents don't want to play with them. You get those kids and they develop kids great looking, And so after we developed that, and I started letting everybody play. When I say let you play, you had to earn whatever you got. And the kids, they really worked hard. And the kids that didn't, after a while, then I didn't have a lot of room for football players. Some was great athletes, they wanted to play. We didn't ostracize them or nothing like that if they wanted to play. Whoever wanted to play could try out, and if they were in the top group, they made the team. But anyway, when we started, and the officiating was biased, but that didn't bother me so much because I thought it was biased when we were in the old Prairie View League, So that didn't change that much, but it was one thing about it though. The white officials did not want the black officials in the association with them, and didn't want them calling games. But then it was 3 of us in the area, James White over in Beaumont, Billy Brown in Orange. We all got together and decided we would not play a game. We met with the Officials Association. We would not play a game unless there was a black official in the game. As simple as that. So they came to an agreement, and they all finally started working. That group came together as one organization, and we started playing. It was great competition, and I'm gonna be honest with you, most of the programs during that time had football coaches that was more or less babysitting basketball at most of the schools. But I considered myself a basketball coach. So after I got the program going and we started playing those schools, we would beat them by large margins. I mean, it's really beating them bad. So some of the schools then decided, I think parents and fans and whatever, to put a little pressure down on whoever, the administration or the head coaches or whatever, to hire basketball coaches. And that's when basketball really got good all around in the area, when they started bringing guys in who were really good basketball coaches and had basketball in their minds. And then at that time, we were not allowed to go to camps or do any summer anything. And then it's a young fellow from Houston named Greg Kite. Greg's parents filed a suit against the UIL for not allowing him to go to a summer camp. So they won that suit. So Greg started going, but they said it was not a class action suit or whatever. It didn't involve everybody. It was just Greg. But after a while, some other parents got in there and opened it up, where we were able to go to camps. The first 2 kids I had to go to a camp was Anthony Allen and Ronnie Halliburton. Both of them, I took them over to McNeese to a big man's camp. At that time, Ronnie Halliburton was about 6'4", and Anthony Allen was about 6'6". But they were like 10th graders. They were 10th graders because the 9th graders were still at the middle school. So anyway,
Halliburton went into boxing.
Beg your pardon?
Is that the Halliburton that was also a boxer?
No.
No.
No, he played football. He went to LSU on a football scholarship. Played with the Denver Broncos for a year or so. And then he hurt his back or something like that. And so he that ended his football career. And he went back and they hired him at LSU as a maintenance director or something like that. But Anthony Allen wound up going to Georgetown University. But both of them, we got 2 state championships out of those youngsters. Got their sophomore and their senior year.
And so you got the program established, and you broke down some barriers.
Yes.
And you began to build a team. How long did it take you before you won your first state championship?
Well, first let me say this. We were told that it makes no difference. Makes no difference when we first started. Makes no difference. Football is the only thing that counts. I don't care how many championships you win in other sports. Football is the thing. Okay. So after we got started, our fans started. The football program was not as successful as they were accustomed to, and they started complaining at every game. People were walking. I mean, they were really vicious. Fire the coaches, fire them all, things like that. So I started listening to things like that. I say, hey, I better show these people that I'm a basketball coach. Maybe I can hang on like that, but I need to feed my family. So that was when I started to really put more emphasis on basketball, because I made no real decisions with the football program. I just did what I was told, followed the instructions that I was given. And so I went to work on the basketball program. But it took me I started working, I'm going to say in 63 basketball season, let me say 63. It took me, I won the first district championship in 69. So from 63 to 69, we won the district championship. And that was when we were integrated. And then after we won the district championship in '69, we won it again in '71, '72, '73, '74, '75, '76. Okay, right. In '77, French won it, and then '78, BCP won it, and we won it in '79. '79, no, BCP won it in '79, '78 and '79. We won it in '80, '81. The first state championship was in '81. Then the next year we tied for the district championship, but we lost to French in the playoff. So then they dropped us from, at that time the top class was 5A. They dropped us from 5A to 4A, and we started competing with Silsbee being the top dog over there. So the first year we were over there was '83, and Silsbee won the district. And '84, we won the district and the state championship. In '85, we won the district. In '86, we won the state championship again. In '87, we won the district. In '88, we won the state championship again, and that was, I had a stroke in '87, and I gave up the basketball after the '88 season. But the team that Joe Price came in, the team that I left him, had 5 juniors, 4 sophomores, and 2 ninth graders returning, and they won the district. The state, I'm sorry, they won the state. That was in '89. Joe Price left, Andre Butte came in, and he went to the state. He won the district, went to the state, lost in the semifinals, and that was in '90. Then he came back, won again in '91. The program was set.
But it's amazing, Coach, when you reel off those years over that time. I mean, your players come and go, and they're in high school such a brief time, but you had built up a solid foundation that kept producing great players.
Yes, sir.
It's an amazing story.
Yes, sir. My goal from the very beginning was to build a solid program. And that's what we did over there, because I had great assistant coaches that really, it started with Coach Williams, Lawrence Pierre, guys like that really, the roots. And then Melvin Getwood came, and James Knowles, and Otis Norris, Aubrey Lewis. I could go on and on. Even Alex Durley was my assistant coach at one time, So we had a lot of quality people. Lewis Reed was also in my basketball practice. I'm talking about superintendents of the school district. So
the executive officers for the district. That's right.
Yes. So we had some great input into the program, and a lot of knowledge that was put into it, and a lot of work was put into it also. And I know that I would not have had the success that the program had if it was not for those men that I named, and I probably left out some too, and then we had great fan support, parents and everybody, it was just all around good.
You mentioned Andre Butte. I remember you played against him in one of the Gamble Classic games one time. Do you have a good working relationship with him?
A great working relationship with him, even today, he's the head coach at Westbrook over there now, and we still communicate, and you know, just checking old man's brain every now and then to see if I can give him a tip. But he's a very fine young coach himself.
You coached several players that went on to play in the NBA, Earl Evans, Leonard Allen, and B.J. Tyler.
All great players, great athletes. I had others who I felt were capable of being professional players but did not possess the size that you needed. Kids 5 feet, even though there have been some kids who were successful in the NBA that was 5 feet 8 or 9, but I call them freaks of nature because they could do some things that, some ordinary youngsters could not do. But I've had some great athletes and basketball players in our program. So it's Coach John Wooden said at one time, no one can win without talent, but everybody cannot win with it.
How true. A lot of wisdom there.
Great old man, I wanted to play for him.
You tried. What about Steven Jackson? Did he work with you? Was he ever at Lincoln High School?
Yeah, Stevie was there, but he was a youngster when I was coming along. He was in the chain, hung around. But quiet as it kept, almost every state championship that we have at Lincoln, there was a Jackson on it. There was some other Jacksons there.
His brothers or cousins?
Uncles and things like that. And cousins, yeah. Michelle Jackson, and I can't even think. The other one who I thought was the best Jackson of all. He was on the '84 state championship, and he was solid as a rock. But all of the Jacksons were good athletes and good basketball players, So Stevie had one thing that the rest of them didn't have. He had height. Stevie 6'6", 6'7", and later maybe he might be 6'8", Loved the game, a lot of skills, But and he certainly improved after he left Port Arthur. He even got better.
Well, he wound up on a championship team with San Antonio.
Yes, he did, and played very well. He was a great contributor. He wasn't just on the team. He was a player.
I want to ask you about a memory. Is there a special game that you coached that you have fond feelings recollecting about what took place?
Well, I'm going to say, it's difficult to do that because you have so many games that you enjoyed being a part of and coaching, and most of those, I only enjoy games when I win, but I guess to pick out one, I will say this: our 1986 championship game, we played. The team we played was Mansfield. I think Mansfield was ranked number 2 in the state, and we played Mansfield, and it was said that this was probably going to be the best game in the whole state tournament because possibly both of our teams was better than everybody else, regardless of the classification. And there were some coaches who had felt like Mansfield was the better team, that Lincoln would be in for. They didn't say Lincoln, they said Gamble would be in for a big surprise if he think he's going to come up here and walk away with this. But at any rate, we beat Mansfield 55-39. And every kid, I had 16 kids in a uniform, and they all played. And I mean, everybody was happy. The girlfriends, the parents, the boys that played, we all were happy except four guys. Four guys were standing outside when we were leaving and going to the bus to go back to the hotel. And they said, "Hey, we should have beat that team by 30 points. Gamble had gotten too old to be coaching." And I walked right in front of him and I just laughed. I had the championship trophy in my hand. All of my kids had played. We were all very well satisfied and happy. But, you know, it's just those things. You don't ever please everybody, but that's not your goal anyway. The goal is to make the kids that you work with productive young people in later life. And if you can do that, you have done a good job, you know. And I have always said that there's no money in coaching. At the time I was coaching, there was really no money unless you were the head football coach and athletic director. There's no money in coaching. But I found out later on that there are some things in life that's better than money. You know, there are some things in life that's better than money. And when I look up and I see Stevie Jackson in the NBA, Earl Evans in the NBA, James Payne, a lawyer, I can't use Alfred Como. I don't even know what his status was. He was high ranking in the industry part, you know. But I've had a lot of kids who have gone on to be productive young people that call me all the time to see if I'm doing all right and checking on me and whether I need anything and all that. Those things to me are better than money.
Amen.
Yes.
Coach, you had a remarkable record. You won 670 games and you lost 226 with a 74% one-loss record. Now, that's huge. I don't think that would be equaled by anyone else.
That's better than money, too.
Well, we admire you so much. I've seen you coach, and my experience was most coaches on the sidelines were jumping up and down and hollering and throwing stuff on the court and expressing outrage at a call. But in watching you, it just amazed me how composed you were and how softly you spoke. And when you'd call the players to the bench, they'd lean over to try to hear what you were saying. And you didn't have a loud, boisterous manner on the court like so many others do.
Well, Dr. Monroe, I had all of that during the practice sessions. You know, the practice sessions, you get after the kids and you do what you need to do. But when you get to the game, there's no one who would like to be more successful than the youngster on the floor. He want to be a successful player out there. He want to be impressive. He want to look good. He wants to succeed. All right. So during the game, if there are problems, the kids, to me, they don't need. I played basketball all of my life. They don't need fussing and cussing and going on. They need help. So you call a timeout or whatever, and whatever the problem or the difficulty that he's having out there, is that you explain to him what we did in practice, that we knew we were going to see this. This is what we are not doing, So I mean, you do things like that. I mean, you try to help them, and sometimes you can give kids an assignment that's a little too tough for him, because other teams have great players too. So if you've given a youngster an assignment that turns out to be a little bit too tough for him, rather than scolding him and fussing at him, you give him some help. So, you go to an alternative, something that will help him do the job that you need done.
Beautiful way of putting it. I'm just going to read some of the halls of fame you've been included in. Inducted in the Texas High School Basketball Hall of Fame. Inducted into the Prairie View Interscholastic League Coaches Association Hall of Fame. The Prairie View Interscholastic League, the governing body for all black schools until the 1967 merger. Inducted in the Prairie View University Hall of Fame. Inducted into the Southwestern Athletic Conference Hall of Fame. Inducted into the Texas High School Association Hall of Fame for coaches. And, of course, the Museum of the Gulf Coast Hall of Fame. I would say you've been fairly successful.
Thank you.
And we're mighty proud of you as Port Arthurans and Texans as well.
Thank you.
It's a great honor to have you here today.
It's a great honor to be here.